You're listening to The Riff, a podcast by North Point Church. There's a lot more to the Christian journey than what can be presented in a 30-minute time slot from a stage on Sunday morning. Our host and lead pastor, Jeremy Johnson, highlights the vision of North Point Church and the Christian journey through stories, interviews, and unfiltered faith ramblings. We hope the conversations will help you engage in how faith interacts with your life. I think we're ready. Let's go for it. Well, hey, welcome back to another episode of The Riff. I am not Jeremy Johnson because typically he records those intros, and usually I'm on the other side of the computer hitting all the buttons, and today he just decided to walk out of the studio before we hit the intro. So here we are, but thank you for tuning in. We've got another great episode lined up for you today. We have special guest Jen Davis, who sits down with Jeremy and she talks through goal setting. We think this is a great time of the year, coming off the heels of Christmas, New Year resolutions. What does it mean to goal set? Let's grab some notes. It's going to be good stuff in this podcast. Let's go for it.
Hey, welcome to another episode of The Riff. I am so excited that you're listening to us. As a matter of fact, this is the first episode of the year. And so with that, I know that a lot of you are thinking about new goals, already, halfway through some of these goals, but we're going to talk about goals. And I've got my friend Jen Davis with us today. And so some of you might know her. And if you don't, that's all right, because that's what we're going to do today. So Jen, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well,
I think.
Let us know afterwards if you're still excited. We are thrilled to have you. And so we're going to talk goals today.
Okay.
And I know you're someone who's had goals and hit goals and could help us with that. And now we're recording this so that it releases the very first part of the year. So, but I know as we record it, we haven't had Christmas yet, but let's pretend so it feels real time. How was Christmas?
Oh, it was wonderful. Had a great time. My kids loved every gift that I gave them.
That is awesome. It's so good to hear.
They're so grateful for all of them. Yes, it was wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, that's perfect. And so if you're joining us, yes, we do this real time. And this is being released at the very first part of the year. And a lot of people, they're either goal setters, they're excited, they've been pushing goals off until this year, because why start one in mid-December? Or they feel guilty about not having a goal, or they feel arrogant about not having a goal, and everything in between. So if you're joining us, whether it's watching, whether it's listening, today we're going to walk through that. But I want to start by just kind of getting a little 411 on Jen. I don't know if 411's a thing.
It is a thing. I do know what a thing. It's the information, right?
Yeah.
Info.
Yes. Like if we go to a payphone and hit 411.
Yes. If there were still payphones, I think that might be a thing.
It's still a thing.
Really?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I do want to know your life. Like give us, start with birth and with now and hit any highlights in between.
Fantastic.
Okay.
So I was actually born in Nebraska. I grew up in a little town called Deschler, Nebraska. Population 800 people.
Okay. That was before you or including you? Including
me.
Okay.
Graduated with 24 people in my class, and I was not the top student of 24 kids.
I don't want to get into details, but like top percentage-ish.
Oh, I was probably in the top 3 or 4. People.
Okay, so 88%.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Somewhere
good.
in there.
That's good.
So it was good. Moved to Springfield in 1998 to go to what was then SMS and is now Missouri State.
Okay, all right.
So came here.
So why not Cornhuskers? Because that's kind of a religion up there, isn't it?
Well, it is. I'm still a Nebraska fan. So, I moved here. I wanted to have a little distance, right? I was the youngest of 3 kids. My parents still live in Deschler. My brother lives very near there. My sister's in Florida. And a lot of my friends were going to the University of Nebraska, and I wanted to do something different.
Okay.
And so based on ACT scores and a variety of other things, scholarships all pointed to Missouri State. And my parents were like, that is where you will go, right?
Okay.
That's where you're going to go.
Yeah.
So I moved here in 98, and I've been here ever since. So
at what point did you feel like, man, this is home?
I think after college and I got married and had kids, I think that was when you start raising your family. It's like, this is where I'm going to be. This is a nice place to live. It's a good place to raise a family. And so I've been here a long time and have really lived most of my adult life here, right? From 18 to now, wherever I'm at in my 40s. I've been here for a long amount of time.
Okay, so now you have 2 kids?
I have 2 kids.
Okay, tell us a little bit about what do we need to know about them? Because I heard they might be listening.
They might be listening. They should be listening.
Okay.
So Caitlin is 15. She's a freshman at Kickapoo, runs cross country. So this year, as a freshman, made varsity.
Okay.
And got to run at the state cross country meet.
You sound like a mom right now.
I know. I chased her all over the course, shouting at her or
really?
encouraging
Who's
her.
faster?
She is.
Okay.
But
okay.
I didn't have to, do the whole loop. I could just meet her.
Yeah. Pick your spots.
Yep. And then Cooper is 10, and he is in 4th grade at Disney. So he's into basketball.
The park or the school?
The school, the Disney Dolphins.
Cool. That's cool.
He's a dolphin. Yeah.
Okay.
So
because there is a park. There's a couple of them.
Yes. Well, people may have heard of him.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's 10. He's super into basketball, football, flag football, anything that he can play outside. That's what he's into.
Okay. Well, that's good. So we know we got a couple of listeners there. So you're right in the middle of busy mom life. And then tell us a little bit about what you do career-wise.
So I'm a real estate agent, right? Just like every third person in the city of Springfield, probably, right? So
I'm not.
Yes.
So.
Well, we have 3 people in here, and I'm one
you're
of the
one.
3. Yes.
That's what they say?
Yeah, that's what they say. So I'm at Keller Williams. I run a team. So I started out
Have you all ever sponsored a podcast yet?
No, but we will.
Okay, just throwing it out there.
Happy
just
to.
throwing it out. No. I am not the kind that asks.
No.
I'm not the kind that asks.
I think that we actually might be sponsoring. We did sponsor, right? If I'm looking at that, we're in the beginning of January. We did sponsor something with North Point Republic campus for Christmas.
Yes. As a matter of fact, part of the whole Give Back event.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a success.
And I feel like could be a gateway to podcast. Do we need a break for a podcast sponsorship spot right now? Oh, we don't. Okay. We don't have one.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. We're not looking for sponsors.
Totally fine.
I'm sure. Otherwise, we'd have them. But Keller Williams. Get back to Keller Williams.
Yep.
So you sell houses.
We sell houses.
How long have you been doing that?
I got my license in 2008. Have not always been at Keller Williams. Was at Carol Jones first, which now is Reese Nichols. So they've kind of grown and
I've
changed.
seen a calendar from her, I think.
Yes, probably so. Yeah. So joined KW 9 years ago as a buyer's agent for Holt Homes Group, which is a team within the brand of Keller Williams, and then was our lead buyer agent for 6 years. What that means is I really just help people find their house, right? There are certain agents that help you sell your house, and I was the agent that helped you find the next one. Okay. So I had the fun side, right? Everyone's happy.
Everyone's excited.
Everyone's excited.
Yeah.
And then about 3 years ago, I bought into the company. So Dan Holt was the founder of the company. I bought in, and now I run it. So I run our team. We have 20 people on our team. We've got administrative professionals. We've got what we call inside sales agents, which are the ones that call out to kind of drum up business. And then we've got licensed agents that help people buy and sell homes.
Okay, so how many years have you been in the house biz?
13.
Okay, and at what point did you feel like that's something that I want to do? And then also, that's something I think I'm good at.
Honestly, so I was married for 13 or 14 years, and my ex-husband and I are very good friends and co-parent very well. It was his suggestion.
Which that could be a whole podcast.
It could be a whole podcast. But it was his suggestion. I was at home with our firstborn, and he was like, I think that real estate would be something that you'd be good at.
Okay.
We were buying rental houses, and he was like, I think you might be good at this. And so I tested it out and found out I'll be honest, I don't love the house part of it. I love the people, right? So the people that I get to meet and their stories, I've been in thousands of houses, right? And I think for me, the house is clearly the byproduct of what I'm there to do, right? That's the inventory. But the interesting part are the people. And I think once I figured out, hey, the sales are the byproduct, and this is just me having an opportunity to meet a lot of people and be part of their story, that's when I found out that I was going to be good at it and that I enjoy doing it.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay, do you remember the first time you closed?
Oh, my heavens. Yeah, well, the first time I put something under contract to the brokerage, I actually turned in the blank contract. I was so excited that I got something under contract that I gave them like the rough draft. I don't know. Yeah. So I do. I remember being at the first closing, not 100% understanding what was going to happen. I had closed on homes that I was the buyer for. Yeah. But never sat on the other side of it, and I was so excited. I'd
count down until it's official.
Well, and everyone says it's not closed till it's closed. I was like, I don't know what that means. Yeah. And I don't know that I knew what that meant until 2 years into it when the first time the person was like, I'm not signing this.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Wow. Okay, talk to me a little bit about a faith journey from growing up in Nebraska. Was faith a big part of growing up?
It was. So I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
My parents were, I was in church, every Sunday.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we were there. They were like not Easter Catholics,
okay,
right? They actually went to church.
Not judging church people,
No.
but sometimes it's like, we call them Christers. Christmas, Easter. Yep. So you were like you were the Sunday.
They were the Sunday
church people.
Yes,
okay.
we were the Sunday church people. And it's interesting. It was part of my childhood, right?
Okay.
It's a very traditional church service, right? I could walk into a Catholic church anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, and it follows the same pattern, right?
Yeah.
And so it was part of my childhood. And then when I came to Springfield, as a young adult, you can either lean in or not. And it was kind of hit or miss. Like if I look back on it, by the time I got married, Jeff and I were going to a Baptist church, and it became a focal point again, right?
Okay.
So when I was in college, I would go here or there, specifically when I was at home, or my mom called and said, "Hey, did you go to church today?" And then when this whole other world was opened up of a different type of religion, or a different type, not religion, but a different type of service, right?
Right.
It's just, it feels different. And I was like, gosh, there's something else, right?
Yeah.
This relationship with Jesus can be something that's not just on Sunday mornings, right? That is every day. And that was probably the first time that I was like, oh, that there's not a guilt associated with it if I've not done something that I was, right? There's like the whole thing of Catholic guilt it's true. I mean, that's a part of kind of some of it. And so...
And some people might be listening who didn't grow up Catholic, but they understand the word guilt because we have Baptist guilt and Pentecostal guilt. And it's so weird that a lot of faith has that guilt. But then you found one that was meaningful and personal for you.
Well, and it was all of a sudden I was like, oh gosh, I have a direct line, right? I'm not going to confession. I'm not, or I don't have to feel bad that I didn't go to confession. I get to have a conversation anytime I want to, and most of the time it's all day long.
So did you start taking advantage of that right away when that became a new kind of epiphany?
It was, taking advantage of it, certainly exploring it, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out what does this mean and how does this look and how is it going to impact the relationship I have with my family, right? I mean, my parents and my siblings that I care so much about, it's different, right? I'm going to go a different direction than I had been brought up in.
Yeah.
And I think then what happened was, as far as like faith journey goes, you have kids, and all of a sudden Sundays are hard again, right? It's really easy to get two adults to church. It's really hard to get babies and toddlers to church.
Right.
And then we kind of lost my way a little bit, right? Like looked at it or it was never, like I look back and I think my whole life I was always a believer, right? Like I'm so lucky that that's my story.
Wow.
And I've had times where it wasn't a priority. And so when you look back on the faith journey or the variety of times in my life, I can look at the section of, right ahead of being at North Point, I was drifting. It wasn't a priority. And you look at some of the repercussions of that, which are a divorce, right? You look at career became the focus. We're going to talk about goals, but goals became the focus. And if you don't have all of that in harmony with what your faith journey is, you can get off track pretty fast.
Wow. Okay, and we'll talk about these goals, but hearing this is some people might be thinking, what I need, the transformation I'm looking for, or the success I'm looking for is accomplishment. And before we even get there, you're talking about that there's got to be a different foundation because accomplishment could distract us from the most important things. So how is this faith then? Is you have this moment of thinking, okay, I'm drifting, and which I think is so natural. Is it probably a helpful question for everybody listening? Am I on autopilot right now? What are some practical ways that you've been able to implement, whether as a parent or personally, to be able to just stay kind of in alignment with Jesus, as you go forward?
I think it's that he's the priority, right?
Yeah.
That's where that's who I start and end my day with, and sometimes in the middle if I'm having a challenging day, right?
Like practically, what does that look like?
Practically, it looks like, reading I love the Voice Bible.
Yes.
So that is typically my evening, right?
Okay.
But in the morning, I'm reading the plans in the YouVersion, the app, right?
Yeah.
And so it's that in the morning. It's when I start. It's praying for a clear mind. It's praying to be a blessing to the people that I come into contact with.
Yeah.
To know when to be still and when to say something. I mean, that's how I start my day. How do I lead? How do I impact the people that are around me? And then at the end of the day, what could I have done better? Maybe what challenges did I have? Where in there did I maybe take a step away from Jesus, right? Like where in there did I not put that as a priority? And how do I make a correction the next day? But that's being the priority, right? That's how I start my day every day. And it's how I end my day every day.
Wow.
And it is making, in addition to that though, with any goal, I think it's accountability, right? You have to have people that are checking you on it, right? I can want it for myself and I can want to deepen that relationship, but I also have to have some people that are around me that are like, hey, this isn't quite in alignment with what you said you wanted to, the person that you said you wanted to be or how you wanted to show up.
Okay, so a couple of things jump out to me on that. One is for someone to be able to say, hey, this doesn't match kind of what you've declared. I'm seeing an assumption that we would tell someone in our life, this is what I want to be. This is who I want to be. Help me. How do we find that? There's a lot of people who probably are part of our faith community at North Point who would love that kind of community that helps them grow towards their desired alignment with Jesus. How did you find that? How intentional do you have to be? Is it just natural? Where do we find that?
Not natural at all, right?
Okay.
It can be a little bit uncomfortable if that's not how you, if that's not your history or that's not how you kind of developed as a young adult. You've walked this fine line, I feel like, in business and personal relationships of where does my faith fit in, right? How do I talk about it without being a turnoff, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny, I look at it and I'll circle back around to the question, but part of the reason I ended up at North Point was a person that worked in my office, and it was Rachel Shepard. We talked about her a little bit ago.
She I don't have a ranking of all humans, but if I did, she's up there.
She's up there. And I looked at her and I thought, I would see her in stressful situations, and she showed up differently than other people did.
Wow.
And she talked about her faith in a way that it was natural, and there was nobody in the room that was uncomfortable with how she talked about it, right? Whether I knew that they were believers or not believers, the way that she presented herself, and I thought, that's what I want. That's the person I want to be, right? I've just gone through a divorce. I'm kind of rebuilding a life. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going, and there's this person that I see, and I'm like, that's what I want. That's what I'm missing.
Yeah.
And so I wandered into North Point. And so the accountability piece of it, right? That was the question. Well, I didn't know anyone at North Point outside of Rachel. And quite honestly, I came to the Norton Road campus so that I wouldn't know anyone. I'm rebuilding a life. Which
I've heard that from one of our goals as a church is to make it a personal connection. But what's crazy is some people, especially at the Springfield campus, it's big enough where some people come to hide.
I did at the beginning.
Okay.
It's different now.
Yeah.
Right? Different stages of life. I was like, I want to walk in and I want to connect with God again, right? Like I need the connection. And there's something that's really like private about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, well, I know Rachel, but she's up singing, so I'm okay, right? I'm going to see her before the service and after the service, and I'm going to get to just sit. And so when I looked at Rachel, I thought, if that's what North Point's message is, right? That a safe place to find and follow Jesus, that's where I want to be. Right. And so then I wandered in and stayed. And so the accountability piece, it wasn't certainly like I was going to talk to the person next to me and say, hey, I need you to hold me accountable on this. It was who in my life is already holding me accountable on other things.
Okay.
And so then I had to think, how do I have the faith conversation with them?
Yeah.
How do I talk to them about it? How do I be a Rachel in this relationship, right? How do I make them not uncomfortable and that I'm gonna stay true to this commitment that I've made?
Right.
And so it was really the people that I work with. I have a really strong leadership team, and it was having conversations with them of, this is how I want to show up. This is what I want the message to be, but I want the message to match. I don't want to just say that this is what it's going to be. I want this, like, in times of stressful situations, if I have a reaction that's not in alignment with where I want to be, I'm giving you permission to call me on it.
Wow. Okay.
And so it wasn't that I necessarily went to the accountability side of people that I had just met. It was, these are people that are already in my life that are important to me.
Okay.
And I'm not going to disappoint them.
Wow. So, and I promise you, some of you are like, was this the episode on goals? We're going to get there.
I'm sorry.
No.
Chatty.
I love it I want to bring up a question about community that's so important. And that's, we have the ability to, because it's called the Riff. Mm-hmm. But you're saying something that I think I really do. I think it's going to be the normal experience for community for people. As I've used these words is, I believe every follower of Jesus needs Christian community. Mm-hmm. And matter of fact, we're talking about that in our series that we're in, F-bombs right now. But part of it is we need Christian community. But I think ideally it's taking natural relationships that are already there and bringing intentional conversations, spiritual conversations to natural relationships. Sometimes we look at church and being like, I need to have the Jesus conversation, so find me some Jesus friends that will talk about it. But which for some people that might be the only way you're familiar with, and we'll try and have some of those environments. But ideally, you do have natural, meaningful, lifelong relationships that if you add that intentional spiritual conversation, because it's really tough to, all you have in common is you want to talk about Jesus, but you don't really have anything in common. Right. It's tough to have an ongoing relationship there. So I love that that's been your experience. I've got this gut impulse that could be more of our experiences of what does Christian community look like? Is it Tuesday night in a fellowship hall somewhere? Maybe, but it also might be, hey, all your kids playing the soccer team already. You're already talking. What if you add this to the element? We already work together. What if you add this to the element?
Right. And I think it's being the light that people say, well, what's different about that person? Right. So sometimes I'm bringing up the conversation with the people closest to me. And then there'll be a person that'll say, gosh, you're so different than you were 4 or 5 years ago. Right. You're so different. And I'm like, it's my opening. Right. Yeah. That's the chance that I can talk about something because it is life changing. I'm different. I'm a different person than I was. I make mistakes still. Yeah. I handle them better.
And one of the things you said that even drew you to curiosity with Rachel is how she would handle stress.
It is.
And so one of the things we try and avoid as humans is stress. But if you look at it that lens, you watching a follower of Jesus go through stress differently was a portal to curiosity. And so what if we even handled our own stress differently and thought, it can't be just about me surviving this. How do I even handle a platform of pain, of disappointment, of stress, of injustice in a way that other people say, wow.
I wish I handled it that way,
yeah.
Right? It's different.
Yeah. Okay, I love it.
And I think that with Rachel, because there was we had a little bit of a handful of questions and it was what led you to North Point?
Yeah.
It wasn't a what, it was a who.
Right?
That's
awesome, yeah.
And so, and I look at it and I think that's what I want the impact to be for the people that are around me. My kids, I want them to grow up and think, this is how I handle stress, right? This is how stress was demonstrated to me, right? When a stressful situation happens, I still have authentic feelings. I can still be sad. I can still get frustrated. I can still be mad. The reactions are different, though.
Now, those who are listening, you said some things. I'm like, man, this is just so helpful for me as I listen to you. And I hope that we're catching this is you start the day with these aspirations to be in line with Jesus. And you said, okay, if I have to have course corrections, I try and be aware of it during the day. And I love how you said you aspire at the end of the day to reflect. So if we project at the front end and we reflect on the back end and then say, okay, how do I do this? And not let that be toxic shame or guilt or weird. I love that. I think that could be a helpful tool for anybody.
It is, and I think it ties in with the goals, right? I have a business coach that I talk to once a week that helps me with things, right? Like big picture things. And he'll say at the end of every year, what did you learn what did you win at this year and what did you learn at this year? Like there's no loss. So I think that's part of the guilt thing, right? So that's at the end of the day I can do that. What did I learn from today? What was I not prepared for, right? What was my faith not prepared for? So what was the learning? And then how do I make it better?
Wow. Okay, so let's shift into some of these goal conversations. Is a little bit, and I know you didn't lead with this, you don't bring this up, but you're one of the best in the biz. You really do have had such a phenomenal favor and success and ability for people to trust you quickly, to be able to take one of the biggest decisions of their financial life and their family life to say, can you lead us in this? And you've had that over the year, and you've been able to then create systems around doing that that's more even scalable than just you. And so whether it's Keller Williams, one of the biggest in the nation, I've seen they've utilized you on teachings across the nation, this platform. So if you're listening, these are some things that you have really honed in on. Whether we're talking about a health goal, a spiritual goal, a financial goal, let's go broad and let our listeners plug it in narrow. How do you even go about setting a goal? And if it's January 3rd or 6th, by the time someone's listening to this, is it too late?
No, it's never too late. You know, I listened to a podcast yesterday and they were talking about consistency, right? Consistency. Okay. And so if I look at a goal, I think you have to decide what's the one goal, right? And so if I'm setting a personal goal, that goal, you know, is whatever it may be. If I'm setting a team goal. So if I look at our team next year and I say we're going to sell 900 homes next year, that's the big goal. So we call that the goal, right? It's the G. But we're looking at a GPS, right? So we've got the one goal, which is, let's say, 900 homes. And then we have 3 priorities. What 3 priorities, the P's, right? What would be the 3 priorities that would get us to that one goal? This is going to be really overwhelming, and then I'll break it down.
I love it. I always would rather be overwhelmed than underwhelmed.
Okay, great. So then you have your 3 priorities, and mine would be I'm going to have something from our operations team, right, our admin team. And then I'm going to have something from our lead generation team, right, which is the foundation of our business. And then I'm going to have something from our sales team, right? What is that? How does this all get to this one goal? But then out of those 3 priorities, there are strategies to reach it. Okay. So basically what I'm saying is we're going to boil it down. We're going to make it so that the goal seems easy, right? What I have learned about goals in the darker times of my life is they can eat away at you. And you can get to December 31 and think, I missed my goal. I don't get to celebrate it. Or you can get to December 31 and say, I hit every goal. Oh no. Tomorrow's January 1st and I have to start all over again.
Right. It's a tough treadmill.
It is. And so you look at it and you think, okay, I have to have wins along the way. There's a book called Atomic Habits that James Cleary, I don't know I think that's who wrote it. But Atomic Habits, and it says that goals can be the thief of joy. Okay. So when I say we've got the big goal, we've got the priorities, and we've got the strategies, those are all ways that we can win every day, every week, every month. If you win each day and you win each week and you win each month, you get to win the year. You also find joy along the way. And so I think when people are looking at like a weight loss goal, right? If that's typically a January New Year's resolution. Number one, a goal has to be a SMART goal, right? So it has to be specific. So if you can't just say, I just want to lose weight. You could say, I want to lose 10 pounds. It's specific, right? And then it's measurable, right? 10 pounds is measurable. You can measure 10 to 9, 9 to 8, 8 to 7, whatever. But you look through it and you say, okay, I'm going to do a SMART goal. It's going to be specific. It's going to be measurable. I'm going to have some accountability around it. It's going to be something I can repeat, and it's going to be timely. So that's the thing. I'm going to lose 10 pounds by when? Okay. Right? So if you look at it, the goal has to be...
Let me pull the string on the repeat. Give me an example. What does that mean? So this is something that I can... does this goal... How do I know if my goal fits that R for SMART?
I think if you're looking at it, it has to be something... It can't be a starvation diet, right?
Yes.
You can't not eat.
Yeah.
That's not a good option.
Yeah, it's got to be sustainable.
It's got to be sustainable. Okay. It's got to be something that every day I can wake up and I know that I will do it. Right. I know that an easy example would be, I'm just not going to eat fast food, or I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not putting that out in the world. I'm still eating fast food.
Felt a little judgment there.
I'm still eating it.
You saw the receipts.
It was like, but you look at it and you think, I'm going to make a 1% adjustment. So every day I'm going to be 1% better. And so the repeatable part of it is something that it's not a one-off. I don't want to lose 10 pounds for this week.
Right.
I want to lose 10 pounds and keep it off.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
And so when you look at it, it ties back to, the conversation that we had of every night I'm looking at what were the learnings from today. The flip side of that is I write down every night, if I were to win tomorrow, this would be the one thing or the two things or the three things that I would have to do.
Like, do you literally write? Do you have like a journal?
It's in my phone notes.
Okay, yeah,
right?
yeah, phone notes.
And so it can't be more than three things. In my mind, this is just a rule I made up. So this is not like factual. Right. But I can't have more than three things, and one of them has to be personal. So they can't all be work related.
Okay.
So if I'm going to win tomorrow, it would be I would have this conversation, or I would handle this issue, or whatever those things are. And typically my personal thing is I'm going to do something fun with the kids before they go to bed, right? That is something we're not watching TV, we're not on our phones, we're doing something as a family. And what happens is if you look at your day and you say, this is what I could have done better, it typically gives you what your win for the next day needs to be.
Okay.
And the way that it ties in with your goals is it makes it so they're bite size. Right?
Yeah.
I can celebrate every day. I can look every day and say, I moved the meter forward. I'm not at the end of the year like, what happened? I didn't celebrate at all. And now it starts all over.
Yeah.
I get to enjoy it. I get to enjoy the process.
So I love that GPS is, so you have your goals and your priorities, and then your strategies to be able to, build this path for the goals. And sometimes maybe we set a goal and it's a good goal. Mm-hmm. But if we don't have those priorities and strategies,
you're setting yourself up for failure. And you look at like the weight loss, and part of it may be I'm going to give up sugar, or I'm going to exercise 4 times a week. Like, one of the strategies may be no sugar. One may be I'm going to exercise 4 times a week. Right. One may be I'm going to drink however much water, right? Yeah. But you look at it and you're like, well, now we've got a plan.
Yeah.
The strategies around it are how often are we looking at this, right? Yeah. Like, so the accountability part of it is one of the more important pieces of setting a goal. And so when we look at goals as an organization, part of the reason I do all the teaching for Keller Williams, they used to talk about 15th of the month protocol. Like, you look at where you were at 15 days into the month, right? Okay. So if I wanted to lose weight, I'm going to look at where I'm at 2 weeks in. Well, by 2 weeks in, you can't really change much, right?
Yeah.
So we do what we call a 5 p.m. protocol. We're going to check at the end of every day where we're at. If I've stepped off track on a goal and I can correct it the same day, I'm not so far gone that I have no guilt, right? Because I've caught it.
Yeah.
Okay, this day I had sugar. No big deal. I'm just not going to have it tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll start over, right?
Okay, and it's a learning.
It's a learn. It's not a loss.
A lot of people get degrees for learnings. So.
Yes.
And that might be, some people have dismissed goals because that feeling when you don't hit it. Mm-hmm. I would feel that might be hopeful to say, okay, but if you're going to start again, you're listening, you're saying, okay, here's a goal that was important, because if you set it, it probably was important. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't hit it, maybe it's still important. So maybe what's a next step is to just sit down and write down, what are some learnings from that? What didn't work? What strategies failed, or what strategies didn't give you what you thought? Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a strategy, even in the corporate world, where you're like, this strategy, if we do this, we're going to get there, and you do it and it didn't get you there?
Yes.
So what do you do with that?
It's a learning, right? Yeah. You're like, okay, well, that is not at all what I thought was going to happen. Interesting. I wonder why, right? So then you look at the why behind it. Did it not work because we only did it halfway? Like, if we really did all the steps, what happened? Was it the environment? Was it something outside of our control? COVID? Right. Was it something outside of our control? Where in there was the breakdown? And then how do we plan around it next time? Yeah. I think it's interesting. I learn more from, that makes a greater impact on my life when something doesn't work than when it does.
Wow.
Right? Because when it works, you're like, I knew that was going to work.
Yeah.
There's ego that comes with it. You're like, I got this. when it doesn't work or there's a learning lesson, you're like, oh, here's what the breakdown was. And I think that part of goal setting is having the emotional intelligence to look at it and say, here's why it didn't work last time. Here's why I didn't lose the weight, right? Yeah. I didn't talk to anybody about it.
Right.
I didn't leave the environment that I was in, or I didn't create the habit that I needed to create.
Right. I think that's great. And then, so whatever the goals might be, is such a helpful template. But I also go back to what you were saying before, is the goal isn't a God, it's a guide, right? Because you can hit all these goals. That's not going to, the pastor part of me is hitting a different product, hitting a different result, hitting all the goals isn't going to change a lack inside of anybody, isn't going to change a craving, a desire. It might even fuel the wrong thing. So that's very helpful though in hitting this. I love the fact that you just kind of bleed through, here's how I'm wanting to become more like Jesus. Here's how I want to impact people at work and my family. And by the way, here's how we kick some serious tail when it's time to work. So,
I'm all in, right?
Yeah.
I'm all in. And I think if you do the right things with the right heart behind it, it works out. And if it doesn't, at the end of the day, you can you're still happy with yourself, right?
Yeah.
If I don't hit a goal and I did all of the right things and I the intentions and were good behind it, there's also an impact that you can make on other people's lives by how you lose, right?
Yeah. That's awesome. There's a verse in Philippians says, I want to know Christ and even the fellowship of his sufferings, which means when our team loses, the way I do it is going to look a lot like Jesus. It's powerful. People aren't attracted to our success as much as they are to our struggle if we do it right. So I love that you highlight that. This time has been very helpful and valuable. I hope your kids thoroughly enjoyed this episode. And tell them to tell their friends.
I will.
So we just increase our viewership.
Absolutely.
Man, I do pray for all of our listeners out there that this year, set some goals. Set the kind of goals that will make you proud of who you're becoming and who you're reflecting in this next year. And then get some priorities and get some strategies to be able to make some growth there. But thank you, Jen, for coming in and walking us through this and just kind of sharing your life with us on this episode. Has been helpful, so I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. You did it. So we're done. We're
Yay.
done. And hey, Happy New Year to all of our listeners out there. And we'll catch you on another episode of the Unsponsored Riff.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Riff. Submit a question for the podcast at northpointchurch.tv/podcast. We'll have a brand new episode every week, wherever you find podcasts.